It's the ultimate Cuda for the ultimate fighter. Welcome to a special PowerBlock, guys, where today we're kicking off our latest project, the UFC Streetfighter. We're searching the country to find just the right Cuda to transform into a potent tribute car as stunning as this one for Dana White. Dana's president of the hugely successful Ultimate Fighting Championship that airs every week here on Spike. Like the combat warriors of the UFC, our Cuda will be a serious street fighter with unstoppable power. Welcome, Dana White.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Now, you're a huge car guy.
I am.
Why a Mopar?
When you think about the UFC, you think about speed, power, tenacity. Had to be a big block Barracuda.
Our plan for the Dana White Signature Series UFC Streetfighter will have an over-the-top motor, bulletproof drivetrain, big wheels and tires, and a tough guy paint and graphic treatment. All right, let's get started. Today, Horsepower is building and dyno-testing your engine. Are you psyched?
I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited in a long time. I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Woo! Here's Horsepower.
Hey, welcome to the Horsepower Shop, which today is getting decorated with one of our favorite Mopar muscle machines. Yeah, it's a 1971 Dodge Challenger RT. The R, of course, stands for road, the T for track, and back in the day, this baby was at home on both. This one's got the original lime green paint scheme, set off by a signature 71 RT stripes. It's sitting on a set of Combo Pro wheels, and the owner gave it some attitude with a 5-inch cowl hood. Underneath it is one of the most powerful and most popular power plants in Mopar history, the 440. Now, this one's been modified a little bit with an aftermarket intake, shot of nitrous, and a new 750 CFM car.
Today, we're going to start the buildup of our own version of the fabulous 440. And in weeks to come, down in the Musclecar shop, our buddies are going to drop it into a freshly redone Plymouth Barracuda. And it's going to be an ultimate street fighter, and for a good reason. You see, we're building it for Dana White, the man behind the Ultimate Fighter on Spike TV. Talk about a knockout matchup. The PowerBlock, home of the baddest vehicles on TV, and the UFC, home of the baddest and toughest fighters. To jumpstart this engine build, we had to find a good, solid used block that we could machine and use as a foundation for our big block 440.
Took a while to find it, but there it is in all of its greasy glory. An old 440 short block that we bought for about $350. Ready to load onto the truck, along with new parts for a long journey to Florida.
Well, it's a good thing Buddy still has his machine shop up and going. And another cool thing, we get to check out some of his awesome project cars from his past.
Oh yeah, we got everything we need here to clean and machine that old block and get it ready to build one fine 440 Mopar. Now here's somebody we hope we don't need today. This is Bob. Anytime you're having a bad day in the shop, you just take it out on Bob. I think we better start tearing down that block. There it is.
That was a little tougher.
Yeah, it was. All right, buddy, what do you think? Just crank a keeper?
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Once we got the bearings off, this doesn't show a whole lot of wear, but we'll put it up on the bench and check it with a micrometer just to make sure.
All right.
Okay, we'll check our rods first. That appears to be standard. That's good. Go to our mains, and that's also standard.
After a good hot bath and Buddy's spray washer and a thorough rinsing, our 440 crankshaft gets a good coating of WD-40 to prevent rust. And since we're going to reuse the connecting rods, Mike gives them a good thorough cleanup in the blast cabinet. Then the caps need to be cut to make the holes smaller for resizing, followed by a little champering in the bolt holes and smoothing down the edges. Then ARP rod bolts can be pounded into place. This is where we resize the big end. And how do you know exactly what size you're going for?
Well, once we get to a certain size, we're going to check it on our comparator here. Right now, we're about 7 thousandths too big, so we need to keep honing this. For another 7 thousandths, we'll be right on the money.
Well, after finding the lightest rod, you match the other's weight to it by grinding off material for balancing tabs that are on each end.
This is the boring bar, so we're going to go ahead and set it up, get with the self-centering pins, and then that centers the cutter head right up in the center of the bore, and that just makes cutting so much simpler. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put a chamfer on the cylinders to help the rings go in.
Now, to create counterweights, you fill cylinders full of shot to precisely the same weight of the rods and the pistons.
Now we can load each bob weight onto the journal of the crankshaft to represent the rotating mass.
Well, finally, our freshly machined block is clean, dry, and ready for some paint before the ride home.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and finish this motor up when we get back to the shop. But on a road trip like this, it's not always all work and no play with us guys.
You got that right. Buddy's got a backyard full of toys and gonna have a little four-wheel fun before we hit the road.
Hey, we made it back to the shop, and it's a good thing Joe didn't have to drive that tractor all the way back from Florida.
Yeah, I'll say.
Now, after machining this 440 block down at Buddy's shop, we're ready to start our buildup. But there's one thing we need to point out. When we tried to balance the crank, the piston was a little on the heavy side, which would have meant adding a lot of weight to the crank, something we didn't have time for.
So we rushed our balance sheet to Eagle so they could grind us a new one, and here's what they sent us. It's a cast steel piece with a 3/750 stroke and a 6-bolt rear flange. Now, before we can drop this thing in place though, remember we got a bare block, so we got to install some cam bearings using this installation tool that uses a guide cone and 5 different sets of these expander assemblies that are wrapped with washers. Now, here's how it works. You loosen the nut, place the bearing over the washer, then tighten it, make sure it stays in place. Then we slide the bearing in place, making sure the oil hole of the bearing and the block line up. Then using the guide cone to center things up, we can drive the bearing in place. Okay, no skipping on the lube for these bearings. And no trying to drop in this heavy monster by myself. There she is. By the way, the torque specs on the main cap boats is 85 foot-pounds. Next, we've got to fill these holes up with new Speed Pro pistons, original connecting rods. How do we get them together? That's Buddy's job.
First, I put some heat into the piston. Then heat the rod end until it's red hot. Now the pin easily slides through the piston and the heat expander rod. After they cool down a bit, we can install the rings. Okay, our next step is go ahead and check our rod bearing clearance. If you don't have enough clearance, you'll end up with bearing failure and you'll end up with a broken rod. To do this, you first measure the rod journal diameter with a micrometer. Then with the bearings installed and the rod torqued, measure the inside of the connecting rod to see what your clearance is. It should be between 2 to 3 thousandths.
Since Buddy got a head start on oiling up the pistons, I can give him a hand knocking them into the block. After that, we're going to install the rod cap and apply some assembly lube to the bolts. To finish it up, we can start the ARP nuts and torque them down to 50 foot-pounds. During this process, we got a special delivery from our Mopar buddy Andy Mays. He brought us a couple of small but important pieces we need to install our rear main seal. The rear main seal cap on the 440 seals to the crankshaft and to the block. Now we have an original Mopar seal kit that actually lays in this channel. Now what you want to do to prevent any leaks Lay down a pretty thin bead of silicone in the channel here and on the top of the cap as well. Then place the seal into the channel, leaving some of the seal hanging out of the bottom. Now place a small amount of silicone on the outer edge. Now drop in the rear main and start the bolts. Push the seals down into the channel and you're ready to finish tightening the cap. One more thing, on this 440 block we have to install 6 freeze plugs using Loctite retaining compound for press fits.
All right, with that done, it's time to fit this block with a good streetable camshaft. In our case, it's a PowerMax retrofit from Crane with a low pattern that's designed for a balanced input and exhaust. Notice how we're just putting a little oil on the journals since it's a hydraulic roller. And being careful not to nick those bearings we just installed. Oh, notice how also I'm using Buddy's trick of employing the cam sprocket as a handle for better leverage.
The timing set's a Crane double roller installed straight up. And before going any further, we're going to give this big block a shiny coat of Duplicolor engine enamel. Finally, we can install the timing cover we got from Mopar. Man, black on chrome's always been a pretty good combination. Well, it's time for us to take a break. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Okay, it's time for more of our 440 buildup. When we get it finished, this Mopar big block's going between the frame rails of a pretty bad Barracuda. One that'll soon be known as the Dana White signature UFC Streetfighter. We got to do a good job on this motor because it's going to represent some pretty rough customers. You know, the tough guys who compete on The Ultimate Fighter on Spike TV. We think they'll get a kick out of it, though, in more ways than one. I think I'd rather lock up that motor than get locked in the octagon with those guys. Anyway, moving on to the oiling system, we're going to use a Moroso oil pan and one of their pickups, plus this oil pump we got from Seal Power. Pickup goes in first. With some blue Loctite on the threads, it installs right here in the block. Next, we can install the pump with a gasket and 4 bolts.
The cylinder heads we're using on the 440 came from Edelbrock. Now they're a pair of Performer RPMs that have one-piece stainless steel valves. They measure in at 214 on the intake, 181 on the exhaust. Now they have an 84cc combustion chamber, which will give us a 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. We're using Felpro gaskets in this project, including these to seal up the cylinders. After installing our ARP head bolts, we torque them all down to 75 foot-pounds. Now we're putting our date press to use to remove an iron distributor gear from a stock oil pump shaft. And we're swapping it out for a silicone bronze gear from Crane. This way the gear wears out before the camshaft and it's a lot cheaper to replace. Then we drop the shaft into the oil pump with the cam and drive gears seated properly together.
We're also using Crane for our valve train, including these hydraulic lifters we install with plenty of oil. We also want some lube on the lifters too before the push rods, which are the old ball and socket type you see in a lot of Mopar engines. The roller rocker arms mount on a shaft using springs and washers, and you want to make sure that this oil hole on the shaft points down so that it lubricates the friction side of the rocker arm. Before I install them though, check out how Buddy's applying copper paint to the edges of our valley pan for better sealing.
So any water that gets on the top won't have a tendency to run into the bottom of the motor.
Then he covers the top side with black paint to prevent rust and, well, because it just looks good. Then we torque the assemblies to the heads and, with some silicone on the ends of the block, lay down the valley pan. It's held in place with 2 brackets on each end. Well, as you can see, that pan also offers gasket material for this, an Edelbrock aluminum 6-pack intake manifold for big blocks. Now, this retro intake manifold not only gives the old-fashioned looks, but new-age power in the 25 to 6,500 RPM range.
Fortunately, Holley reproduces the 440 6-pack carb setup. Now it comes with a 350 CFM center carb and 2 500 CFM outboard carbs. Now the outboard carbs work as vacuum secondaries and they come into play at higher RPMs when more fuel is needed. Now we gave Summit a call and they sent us this adjustable throttle linkage and fuel line kit that's actually made by Mopar. And after that, finish on top with a set of traditional Mopar aluminum valve covers.
Then up front, to keep our 440 cool, this polished Edelbrock water pump mounted inside a cast housing. And to reduce crankshaft vibration, an ATI Super Damper harmonic balancer. This billet accessory drive from March comes with a bracket for the 90 amp alternator we got from PowerMaster as well as pulleys for the crankshaft and the water pump. This bracket's for the power steering pump that goes on later when the engine's installed.
And so will this. Race Pumps makes this trick mechanical fuel pump that can be ran on either gasoline or alcohol. Now it'll support up to 2,500 horsepower and bolts right here to the side of the block and is driven off of the camshaft.
Right in there. Okay, give it one good push. There we go. It's in there.
To help us fire off the 440, we're installing an MSD Pro-Built distributor and a set of 8.5mm semiconductor wires held in place by looms that are made for you. That's the brand name, by the way.
Try it again.
520 horsepower.
Really, we gained some then. Let me boy, pull the torque out of my throat.
Check out the Hooker Super Comp fender well headers we're using for the exhaust.
Okay, before we tell you what kind of power we made, bear this in mind. Back in 1972, the last year of the 446 pack, this motor made 330 horsepower, 410 foot-pounds of torque. Buddy, tell them what we did.
We got 425 horsepower and 502 foot-pounds of torque.
That's great. Good job. What do you want, fists or fives?
Fives.
All right.
All right, man.
Man, a fearsome 440 for a UFC Streetfighter. Great combination. Well, we got to make a quick motor swap, get this big block on the dyno, and see what kind of power we can make out of a mud racer machine.
Go wide open. All right, it's good. Hey, if you're ready for some real horsepower, this should fill the bill. It's the 588 cubic inch big block Chevy we built a week ago for the Xtreme 4x4 show. Now they're going to shove this thing between the frame rails of one of their mud drag racing trucks. But before we fire it up, take a look at this flashback of the build. It all started with a Merlin 3 block from World Products, a 4340 forged crank from Eagle Specialties, along with a set of their H-beam rods and SRP aluminum pistons. For a camshaft, we opted for a Lunati billet roller. And for a timing set, an adjustable Cloy's double roller. Lunati solid roller lifters, and we're using Edelbrock Musi Victor Series heads. Plus a Jessel Competition Series rocker kit. For an oiling system, we used a wet sump pump and aluminum pan from Steph's. For cooling, a Moroso billet electric high volume pump. And for induction, we used a Super Victor single plane manifold topped by a Quick Fuel Technologies 1250 Dominator carburetor. To fire off this 588, we dropped in an MSD Pro-Built distributor and a set of their wires. Now to make the motor exhale efficiently, we're using a set of Hooker Super Comp headers that feed down to a 3.5-inch exhaust pipe.
That big block has a 13-to-1 compression ratio. Hey, quiet, we're trying to do TV. Anyway, we don't want any detonation, so we're going to use some of VP's 110 octane race fuel when we make those runs.
Open all the way. More. Yeah, that's good. It's popping. You hear it popping through the exhaust? Woo, boy, it's rich in here. Oh, my eyes are burning.
On the floor.
All right, 821 horsepower, 702 foot-pounds of torque. Now that's pretty good power considering we were only running 32 degrees of timing on the motor and we had some pretty restricted mufflers, at least most of the way through the run.
What do you think? Enough power for your mud racer?
I'm more worried, Joe, that when I hit the gas, the truck's going to do a barrel roll off the line. That's okay if it lands on its wheels. Then we'll have some real fun.
Well, you got your work cut out for you now. Just make sure you keep the exhaust on, okay?
I'll try.
All right.
We are back on the block with UFC President Dana White, and we are building him the ultimate street fighter. It's a Resto Mod tribute car to the fighters of the UFC. Now the horsepower guys have finished your 446 pack. And here comes Mike Galley with your bullets.
Well, Dana, here it is. You ready to check this thing out?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Holy cow.
What do you think?
unbelievable.
That is gorgeous.
Cool. Well, what we did, we had in mind that you wanted to get in this car, drive it every day, and not have any problems. So we built a 440. It's got Edelbrock heads and intake on it, Crane camshaft, Eagle crankshaft, and the best part, 3 deuces, making it a 6-pack.
That's beautiful. It's unbelievable.
Now we threw it on the dyno, made 425 horsepower and 502 foot-pounds of torque. So you're gonna be able to burn some rubber anywhere you go.
Can you handle that? All right, while they're drooling over the engine, let's go to the guys who are gonna build the rest of this UFC Mopar later this season. Here's Musclecar.
Today on Musclecar, we'll revisit our El Camino project and give it the Von Dutch treatment. We'll show you how to pinstripe, and we'll take a look back at one of the baddest Fords ever, the '69 Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet.
Today's show was about pride, or the lack of it. This shameful beater is our parts hauler. Tragic. Hard to look cool in a rusted out, neglected eyesore. Most of the parts it holds were used to keep it running. This thing is so trashy, it even attracts more.
You know, everybody says that as TV types are high maintenance and we've got huge egos, so I had to get something befitting of my new TV image. A 78 El Camino that a guy ran out of steam midway through the project.
It turned into a nice truck, too.
It's a car.
That's a truck.
It's registered as a car. It has all the modern conveniences of a car, so it's a car.
No, it's a truck because it has a bed in it.
That
in
bed-
the back.
No.
For hauling stuff.
What? It only hauls ours.
Well, despite the debate, the El Camino did make its mark in automotive history. First introduced in 1959, it was an immediate head-turner. With the comfort and style of a car and the practicality of a truck, it had broad appeal. The El Camino remained popular until its demise in 1988. Most El Camino drivers weren't even interested in performance. They loved it because it was a solid, reliable vehicle. It was a hard worker, hauling a load of lumber one day, your boat the next, and your date on a Saturday night. The El Camino had it all. So why are some considered muscle cars? Well, starting in '64, the Elco shared the same platform as the Chevelle. They were built on the same assembly line with the same trim and power plants. In 1966, buyers could order all the options found on the Chevelle SS, including the 396 Big Block, SS-style interior, and the mag wheels. The El Camino finally earned its SS badges in '68, causing overall production numbers to shoot up, reaching over 48,000 in '69. And if that doesn't convince you of the El Camino's muscle, Chevy's 1970 offerings will. For those power-hungry buyers not interested in the host of lesser V8 options, 2 454 Big Blocks were available, the 360-horse LS5 or the tire-roasting 450-horse LS6.
With this project, we decided to go with a GM Ram Air 350. It's good for about 350 ponies at 5,000 RPMs. And for a skosh under $5 grand, you can't beat it. For maximum reliability, a 4L60E was bolted up to the back. A standalone electronic controller from GM Performance Parts was selected to be the brains of this outfit.
This car got a few updates over the course of this project, but probably the biggest one was switching from a carb setup to EFI. That meant some modifications like installing an O2 sensor in the headers, a new gas tank with an internal pump that could push about 55 psi, along with all new fuel lines and filters. With all that in place, it was hooked up with AN fittings. Now, no big surprises here. Everything was connected, levels were checked, and she fired right up.
But before we could take it out on the street, there was still a little work left to be done. One thing that's really cool about this project is the custom fab fan shroud. And if that doesn't blow up your skirt, this cold air intake should get your attention. We cut out the front marker lights and turned them into scoops. We used 2.5-inch aluminum to plumb everything to the motor.
Now that she's got go power, she's gonna need some whoa power.
Stopping this baby's gonna be a breeze.
The set of bare brakes with 13-inch rotors supplies all our negative G's. And for ultimate control of our parts running truck, we installed these suspension parts from Edelbrock and Global West.
Well, after all the pieces were in place, we're ready to run. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Hey, first things first, we gotta settle this debate.
It's not a debate, it's a car.
It's a truck! But it's a sacrificial. Hey, come on, we're in the middle of a take.
We're important business here.
Yeah, right.
We got a serious issue. Debate. El Camino, car or truck?
Now, hold on. Before you get to that, did you guys really drive down here?
It's
Yeah,
110
we did.
feet.
That thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's 110 feet.
Lazy.
Thank you.
The El Camino is a car.
Thank you.
No, it isn't,
El Camino's
actually.
a truck, just
No.
like the Ranchero, it's a truck.
Thank you. Well, the debate rages on, just like it has since the El Camino came on the scene. Now, I know everyone has their own opinion, and even experts will disagree. And honestly, this will probably never be solved. Okay,
Yeah,
look,
it's a truck.
we'll get to the bottom of this debate after the break when we take the truck out for a stress test. More muscle car after this.
Take the car out.
Hit it, Maestro.
Our Elco takes the muscle car burnout test. Plus, check out a Camino with some serious attitude after the break.
More with my guest Dana White in 20 minutes. Plus, here's what's coming up later on PowerBlock. On an all-new truck, it's more of our muscle trucks wars with a clever way to hide a turbocharger.
Welcome back to Muscle Car and our El Camino Compliciano. We got this abandoned project that already had a totally reworked chassis and body, professionally covered in flawless paint. It's almost ready to show, we just had to give it some go. We agreed on which engine, but still debated the car or truck issue. Whatever you think, no one can argue that it's still a gearhead's toy. And some guys like their toys way over the top. R.A. Stu Stewart, aka Grumpy, not only had a crazy dream, he had the knowledge and dedication to actually make this thing real. You're looking at 3 Edelbrock 650 CFM carbs sitting on top of a 1471 blower. It's force feeding a Merlin 540 and exhaling through Sanderson custom zoomies. An ear-shattering, traffic-stopping throwback to the anything goes attitude of the 70s. This thing guzzles 91 octane pump gas at 4 miles per gallon. And yeah, it's street legal. El Camino can be translated as the road. And with this power plant, he owns it.
Hit it, Maestro.
Something that outrageous would have been really cool for our parts hauler. But that rear end, it had a different idea.
Once we got her back to the shop and popped off the differential cover, it was clear that our El Camino needed a truck rear end. One quick stop by the junkyard and we were in business. We cut out a 9-inch Ford rear end and brought it back to the shop. Now making one of these fit is a little bit more complex than just bolting it up. We cut off the old mounting bracket, fabbed up some new ones, then we had to take some of the tube out to make sure it was the right length so our wheels would be sitting in the proper location. A set of 373 gears with a Detroit True Track from Curry, and our El Camino was ready for the retake.
Coming up on Flashback, a pony with the heart of a cobra.
Today's Muscle Car Flashback, the 69 Mach 1 428 Cobra Jet.
Move over 409. Move over 427. Make room for 428 cubic inches of Ford Cobra Jet power. Ford wasn't just messing around in '69 when they made this beast. And just a hair over 10,000 Mustangs had this 335 horse, 440 foot-pound torque monster dropped under the hood. Less than 6,000 of them were 4-speeds, and only 154 came in winter blue, and only 36 of those had white interiors. As a matter of fact, there were only 2 cars made exactly like this one, and both of those twins sold out of the same dealership in Johnson City, Tennessee. Mark Marcus is the proud owner of this beauty. He picked it up in '99, and since then has taken her all over the country to car shows and MCA events. This beautifully restored Mustang has taken top honors in both the driven and trailered MCA concourse events. Now that's no small feat, considering that there are 700 points that these cars are judged on. Obvious points are paint and body lines, along with consistent VINs, but these cars can get docked points for things as simple as a sticker out of place. And to take the gold, a maximum of only 21 points can get missed. It's no wonder that Carlisle picked this car to be the face of the All Ford Nationals brochure. Now, Ford may have only claimed 335 horsepower to keep insurance rates down. But guys in the know will tell you the horsepower numbers are closer to the 440 mark. And one good push on the gas pedal can even turn back time.
It's like nothing else. It takes you back. I mean, if you were young when you first got in a car like that, it takes you straight back to those days.
A set of 325 gears and the track lock makes sure that all that power is hitting the pavement. And this set of 15-inch wheels wrapped in polyglass tires is definitely responsible for at least a couple of black marks on the road. Style points are in no short supply either. Classic Mustang body lines, a fastback top with rear window louvers, and a spoiler out back are just the start. Side scoops along with headlamps in the front grille are a dead giveaway that you're looking at a 69. Winter blue paint and a black and gold stripe are touched off with plenty of Mach 1 badging. Up front, a flat black hood is held down with a set of pins, but the icing on the cake, this functional shaker hood scoop. Inside, the white interior is just as clean as the day it left the factory, and the paneling and gauges, well, they're in the same condition. Now, winning gold from the MCA says a lot for any car, but with a set of H pipes and dual resonators, the big block will do all the talking. And any big block owner will tell you.
Size matters. Don't let anybody tell you it doesn't.
Now, if you happen to see a shaker hood scoop on a 69 Mustang Fastback, you better watch your step. Mach 1s might be known for their rally days, but a 428 Cobra will deal a deadly bite to just about anything that picks a fight with it off the line. Kick that 4-speed into neutral and cruise for a little bit. Musclecar will be right back.
Rick gives the El Camino an extra dose of style. The lowdown on pinstriping after the break.
Kool-Aid, I need some sway bar bushings. Hold on a minute. Hey, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at our 78 El Camino parts hauler. Me and Rick still can't agree whether or not it's a car or a truck, but one thing we have figured out, it would be really cool with some pinstripes. So while he's getting ready to lay down the licks, I'm setting up a parts run. Yeah, send me an SHR FBB 175-200.
You know, this El Camino's been kicking around the shop here for quite a while. This poor thing has been built up, beat on, broken, fixed, beat on, and broken some more. And through all this, the paint job has held up beautifully. And it looks awesome in solid silver. But you know, the other day, me and Lou were kicking it around, and we decided that it was about time I lay down some stripes and maybe break up some of these silver panels. Pinstriping wasn't considered an art form until Kenneth Howard, aka Von Dutch, came on the scene. Born in 1929, he started the pinstriping craze in the early 50s and made the flying eyeball his trademark. He mastered many types of art, but oddly enough, he despised the art world and spent much of his life a recluse. You know, Dutch passed away in 1992, but his influence is still felt today. So we're going to be laying down some Dutch-style striping on the tailgate of this thing, even adding a flying eyeball to the back. Now today I brought in my striping kit, and it contains everything I need for the job. It's got the one-shot striping enamel, some fine line tape for finding centers and laying out long straight lines, some Neat's foot oil. Now this is what I use for preserving my brushes, and then of course some high-temp reducer in case the paint gets a little thick. These brushes are designed more for lettering and laying out designs and filling in some larger areas. Now these brushes over here are the ones I use most of the time. This is a Series 10 from Mac. They come in sizes ranging all the way from 4/0 all the way up to number 4. Of course, the higher the number, the bigger the brush. Now today we're going to be using the single lot. When I was first getting started, one of the best pieces of advice that a pinstriper gave me was to imagine the brush as a curved bladed scalpel and don't think of it as painting so much as slicing through the surface. As you make a turn, you turn the brush just slightly like you would do with a blade. Now with a lot of practice, you'll learn how to steer the brush where you want it to go. I like to sketch out the design before the paint goes on. And you're right, I'm using the wrong pen to do this. I couldn't find my Stabilo, so I grabbed an erasable marker. What's a Stabilo, you ask? It's a water erasable pencil that you can paint right over. When you're done, it'll wipe off, but for now, the marker will have to do. The hardest part of a design like this is finding the patience to let the paint tack off between colors. Now once the basic design is done, trim it out with black, add some final details, and you're ready to move on. Now, people like their cars to reflect their personality. Some people are more outgoing, so they like a more elaborate design. Other people, not so outgoing, so they like a more simple design. Now, sometimes the people tell me what to put down, and sometimes the car tells me what to put down. The lines on this El Camino are nice and clean and simple, so my pinstriping is going to have to match that. One of the most important aspects of pinstriping is paletting, which means getting the correct balance of paint and thinner loaded into the brush. Twisting it slightly helps to get the paint all the way through the hair. You always want to keep the ferrule facing this direction so that the curve of the brush is always facing down. Once the paletting is done, you can pull a couple test lines on the paper, then you're ready to rock. Now the nice thing about this one-shot paint on a clear-coated surface is that if you don't like the design, you can wipe it right off. Can you try this at home? Well, sure. 30 bucks will get you a brush, a can of paint, and some reducer. Now throw in some imagination, a lot of patience and practice, and you just may surprise yourself. I've learned to control my breathing and my nerves, sometimes even bracing a knee against a project. Just be careful not to scratch the paint. Oh, and one other thing. Don't watch the brush, watch where the brush is going. In about 15 or 20 minutes, the paint will be dry enough that you can wipe off that pencil mark with a damp cloth. And there you have it. In just a few hours, I've given the El Camino a little more attitude. But this isn't just any old shop truck. This is the Musclecar parts hauler. Hey Lou, here's the keys.
I'm ready to roll. I'm going to be taking that El Camino out to every parts store to show out those fashionable new stripes. Later.
It's a car.
We are back with UFC President Dana White. Now Dana, every project starts off with an idea and then a sketch. You have your engine, but you don't have your car yet.
Right.
Here's our concept for your Streetfighter Cuda. What do you think?
I'm blown away. The engine is amazing. The colors are perfect. Seriously, every car that I have is either gray or black, so those are my favorite colors. So it looks amazing.
Well, perfect. We're glad you like it. Thanks, Rocky. Now, why don't you tell us what's coming up this season with the UFC on Spike?
Well, right now on every Wednesday night at 10 o'clock is The Ultimate Fighter. Coaches Rampage Jackson and Forrest Griffin. And then April 19th is going to be the biggest UFC event ever on pay-per-view. Matt Serra versus George St. Pierre. 22,000 tickets already sold out.
I'll be watching.
Thank you.
Right now, an all-new trucks.
Today, it's Muscle Trucks Part 3, and this time Kevin's taken over the shop to take a radical approach to making more power in his '94 Ford Lightning. First, he's adding bigger injectors and a new engine management system under the hood before hiding a tailpipe turbo under the bed that'll spin up boost on his small block V8. It's all today here on Trucks.
Hey, welcome to Trucks. Today, we continue on with muscle truck wars, and we're stirring the pot and reviving a battle that's been fought bitterly for decades on the road courses and drag strips all over the world. Kind of like an automotive civil war, Ford against Chevy.
And our version of this still unsettled grudge starts with taking two factory sport trucks, the Chevy 454 SS and the first generation Ford Lightning, and not only seeing how well they hold up against each other, but making improvements over what the factory did.
Now, Ryan's already had the chance to make some improvements on that 454, but he locked me out of the shop while they were working, so I couldn't spy on him to see what they were doing to make power. So I'm going to return the favor and kick him out while we take a very different approach with this Lightning.
So, what do you have planned for that little Ford?
Oh, you see all these boxes?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you're not going to find out what's in them until it's too late, so get your and get out of here.
Oh, fine.
All right, try it. Well, now that he's out of the way, if we can get started. And the first thing that we're going to do is get rid of these chrome valve covers that somebody stuck on here. They're crushed in the back, the PCV port is plugged, and there's no real good way to get oil in the engine. But the original valve covers were in the back of the truck when we bought it, and there's a few other upgrades we're going to do up top here. So while me and Tommy get this tore down, why don't you guys check out what Ryan's already got done on that 454. The big block Chevy barely out-torqued the Lightning with 300 foot-pounds against 293 for the Ford. But the higher revving 351 Windsor pushed past the SS 454 with an impressive 228 rear-wheel horsepower to the Supersport's 194. Both trucks handled like slightly worn-out street trucks, a little better than average because of the factory tweaks, and both trucks took a pretty good beating on the road test we gave them too. So after Tommy and Ryan yanked the engine and tranny on his truck and discovered a rock-solid short block, they threw in a hotter cam, a set of Edelbrock aluminum heads, roller rockers, and a Proflow EFI kit for fuel delivery. Along with a set of headers, feeding a high-flow exhaust, and backing it all up with a B&M shift improvement kit.
400 horsepower.
And we're guessing it puts the big block somewhere around the 400 horsepower mark. Now, before we go anywhere else, you have to check out these valve covers and the custom fabrication the previous owner did to make them fit under the intake. It's 1,000 wonders that the rocker arms didn't come into contact with these things from the bottom. And like my buddy Ryan says, chrome won't get you home, so these things are out of here. Well, now we can finally let you in on the strategy we've got for waking this Ford up. You first-gen Lightning guys know that these trucks came stock with a speed density EFI system that relies on throttle position, O2, and vacuum sensors, along with a factory pre-programmed engine computer, or PCM, to monitor and operate the EFI system. Now, these things make pretty darn good power. You guys know this, and we proved it over on Joe and Mike's dyno. The problems start to come into play when you want to extensively modify these engines and trucks with headers, a hot cam, lots of cold air coming in on the intake. The engine's computer and sensors are pre-programmed for one engine combination only and can't compensate for all the changes that you just showed it. Therefore, you're never going to realize the potential of all your performance add-ons, and chances are you're going to make your truck run worse. A mass airflow system, like the GT Mustangs have been enjoying since 1989, is more efficient and infinitely more tunable. It relies on a signal sent by the mass air meter that monitors air volume and temperature, and that allows the ECM, or engine control module, to decide how much air and fuel is dumped into the engine, and that is based on how deep your right foot is into the system. Now, all this takes place despite the mods that you've done. So an EFI system that's mass airflow will allow you to take full advantage of your performance mods. So we're going to use this mass airflow conversion kit from Done Right Performance that includes a new ECM, or engine control module, an injector harness that plugs into the module and accepts the vehicle's injector harness, allowing you to control and monitor the rest of the vehicle systems. It comes with, of course, a new air meter, ductwork, all the filters and brackets you need to properly install the system. And since one of our goals is to blow the doors off a certain big block Chevy, we're going to step up our game with this larger BBK throttle body. But the big picture here is that all of these upgrades are going to allow us to take advantage of our secret weapon right here. But more on this guy a little later. Like we touched on a bit ago, a mass air system will complement and feed performance mods, not ignore them like speed density. So although we're going to keep the factory fuel lines and rail, we'll beef up the fuel delivery, starting with much larger 42-pound injectors. The Done Right kit comes with an injector harness, and since our kit works with the existing engine harness, we'll just peel back the factory injector connectors in case we ever want to return this limited edition truck back to stock. The BBK throttle body reuses the factory fasteners and sensors, but will allow 30% more air and fuel into this engine. Now, if we were just upgrading to mass airflow, now's the time to where we'd put our ductwork, air meter, and filter onto the throttle body. But since we're having a little help later on from our secret weapon, there's some ductwork that has to come up from the bottom and tie into the air inlet. So we're going to deal with that later. And our ignition system has already been upgraded by the previous owner to an MSD coil distributor and wires, and it's all working great. So we're going to leave that alone. However, we will be using the Summit Racing multiple discharge box with boost retard for our little forced induction plan. It's going to spank that Chevy.
Up next, it's out with the old exhaust as Kevin lays out a plan for turbocharging. And later, we're running the tubing from the front to the back and back to the front again. Stay tuned.
Budget muscle trucks rule, and so do 4x4s. Here's what's coming up later on Xtreme. Ian and Jesse convert our Suzuki Samurai to run on French fry grease. Will it pay off in the end?
Welcome back. Now, Kevin's obviously heading back in the shop, and I'm sure he's locking the door. So I can't even get in to get tools. So I thought I'd take the time to clean the front end of my SS up a little bit, get rid of some of the crud that's built up. And maybe a little bit later, I can sneak in, get enough tools to bolt the sheet metal back on, and maybe do a little reconnaissance, see what's happening with that Ford.
We want this Lightning to haul butt, but it has to pass emissions. So Tommy's just going to cut off the custom job and the rest of the exhaust, since it's not going to help our upcoming mods anyway. Okay. Let's check out this exhaust system that Tommy pulled off of here. We got some of the original pipes still here into a good set of mufflers. These are Flowmasters, but the outlet size is mismatched, so you're going to have restriction. And over here, here's where it starts to get hairy. Now, this is a gasket surface joint right here. They've got it welded solid, along with a cluster of grapes at this junction here. And over here, these are the ports for the catalytic converters, which are strangely missing, so this truck is not legal in any state. And check out the welds. It's just amazing. There's leaks everywhere. There's restrictive bends. There's mismatched pipe, and all of this stuff over here leading up into the somewhat restrictive but better flowing than stock cast iron manifolds. Now, I'm not dogging the guy that welded this up. All I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with having a buddy that knows how to weld help you with your exhaust system. Well, now we can finally come clean about the power adder we're going to use on this Lightning. This is the Squires Turbo System Universal Tailpipe Turbo Kit. This system adds 5 to 7 pounds of boost and is going to throw on about 100 extra bolt-on horsepower to our engine. It comes with the turbo itself, the oil pump and lines, clamps, couplers, blow-off valve and wastegate, even an electronic boost valve that's going to allow us to dial in a little more boost if we need it, or have a switchable 2-stage boost system. Squires even throws in some mandrel bent pipe sections to help with the plumbing. Now, to give you a little clearer picture of how we're going to route our new exhaust system, check this out. We're using a Flowmaster Universal Mandrel Bent Pipe Kit to help us with our plumbing. So we're coming from our new BBK headers into a downpipe from each bank, exiting into a new catalytic converter and then into a Flowmaster Y-pipe. The Y-pipe dumps out into the turbocharger and exits exhaust out the back, which spools up the turbo, draws fresh air in from the inlet in this filter here, and throws it back up into the front of the engine. Up into the front to get processed and read by the mass airflow sensor, and finally dumped into the throttle body. Now, all that returned and recirculated air creates a multiplying effect, which is turbocharging. And if you've been doing the math and you realize the 228 horsepower we've already got at the rear wheels, combined with the 100 horse for the turbo system, well, it doesn't quite equal our power goals that we want. But remember, we're now running mass air, and it's infinitely tunable, so we can reach into that computer, grab some more power, and we should be okay. Now, before we start throwing all this stuff on, we got some housekeeping to do in that transmission so we can tap into that sweet spot of the power. Besides the fact that I think this looks a little bit better than that anyway.
When we come back, we'll route the bad air to the turbo to make good air for our small block. Stick around.
Hey, get the hell out of here.
Hey, welcome back. Well, they got the truck up on the lift. I can't see what they're doing, but Smelled like they were working pretty hard. Well, anyway, I got some tools so I can get some work done. And check it out. We got a new Goodmark cowl induction hood to throw on the front end of our 454. Let's see how she looks.
Here you go, Tommy.
Thanks.
Well, now that we got the side door locked too, the smell Ryan's referring to is nothing more than a little bit of ATF, since Tommy's just got through doing exactly what Ryan did, installing a B&M shift improvement kit into our E40D transmission. Now, one of the issues that you've got with converting a truck like this to mass air is that the speed density engine computer also controlled the transmission. Well, fortunately for us, Done Right Performance offers a standalone computer and harness for the E40D transmission. So between this and the shift kit, our transmission shifting issues are fine. But there's still one more thing we got to do to our tranny before it goes back up in the truck. And that is throwing in this TCI Saturday Night Special torque converter. Now, the stock torque converter has about a 1,300, 1,400 RPM stall speed, but the TCI unit stalls about 22 to 2,400 RPM, which is going to tap right into that new power that the turbo is going to make. And all that starts up here with our new headers. Now, there's a lot of debate over header gaskets, whether you even need them or not, but we're going to use the ones that came with the BBK headers and see how they hold up. Since we're not changing our pipe diameter much, we're going to reuse the factory downpipes and save some time. Then, we'll replace the catalytic converters and stay with the stock configuration, making room for the O2 sensors, of course. Now, with our exhaust system mocked up to this point, it's time to think about mounting the turbo. Now, the good thing about a universal kit like we've got is that there's lots of options for location. The best piece of real estate we've got on the truck is right here where the factory muffler was mounted. And since the turbo needs to be shock mounted like the rest of the exhaust, we're going to utilize this exhaust hanger. Tommy has got a really good plan for making a bracket.
With some 3/16 plates shaped and trimmed down to use the turbo case as a mount, we can use a 3/8-inch steel rod welded to the factory exhaust hanger and isolator to act as a shock mount for the turbos. This keeps it tucked up out of sight and eliminates any chance of the wheels throwing debris up at our ducting or oil line.
Now, a wastegate's function is to help control boost by releasing pressure at a predetermined level. And you want as little restriction as possible going into the wastegate. So we're coming right off our main exhaust trunk into the gate and then using a couple of pieces of scrap tubing that we found in the pile, ducting up here and exiting right over top of the axle. Now, with the exhaust finished, it's time to route a fresh boosted air on up to the front of the engine. Using some of the universal 2-inch bends that Squire's included, we'll come out of the pump and parallel the exhaust for a while. But we're staying far enough away that we don't get heat soaked, and then cross over to the driver's side right under the transmission tail shaft, and then turning up and back up into the engine bay. And before we go up top and finish our ductwork on the inlet, we'll pop our filter on and we'll make a sheet metal splash shield a little bit later on for that. Up under the hood, even with the V8, there's still lots of room to isolate your boost pipes. And since we're losing the factory airbox and inlet tube, we've got all that extra room to make an unrestricted bend straight into the air meter and finally into the throttle body. Now, our mass air meter needs to be mounted where there's the least amount of turbulent air going into it. So this section of straight pipe right here gives us that. Now, our blow-off valve relies on a vacuum source. The easiest place to get vacuum is the intake manifold, so the closer we are to the intake, the quicker our reaction time is. So right about here is a good spot for the blow-off. And that gives us this wide open space right here to be able to mount our coolant reservoir and our windshield washer jug too.
After the break, Ryan figures out something's up.
I see a blow-off valve. Did you convert to mass air?
Mass air, yep.
I see regular headers. Where are you hiding the turbo?
You're gonna like this. Okay, you can come in.
All right. Hey, welcome back to Trucks. Now, obviously, Kevin must be just about finished with what he's working on. Check out my new cowl induction hood. Speaking of hoods, see what Kevin's got underneath his. Well, I'd say that's one fancy cold air setup, but I see a blow-off valve. Did you convert to mass air?
Mass air, yep.
I see regular headers. Where are you hiding the turbo?
You're gonna like this.
Well, I still don't see a turbo.
Oh, we'll get to that. But check this out. We got the stock downpipes coming into 2 catalytic converters, so now we can actually drive this thing legally.
You mean to tell me you got rid of that great-looking, free-flowing exhaust system?
Sadly, yeah, it's gone. But there's more good stuff back here. From the cats, we go into a Y pipe and then into a 3-inch pipe all the way back here to what we've all been waiting for, the turbo, which is mounted right where the stock exhaust was. So we took advantage of all that great space. Exhaust itself goes up over the axle, wastegate dumps over top, and right here is the turbo inlet filter, oil pressure line, oil return line of the pump itself. Now the charged air we've got going over here and across to isolate it for heat, and then back up to under the hood, which you've already seen.
It looks pretty good. How much boost is it going to make?
We're going to shoot for 5 pounds. We've got the option for a little bit more if we need it.
You're going to need it. Well, where do you think that's going to put you power-wise?
Well, with 5 pounds of boost, our BBK headers and throttle body, plus mass air conversion that can adapt to pretty much anything, on paper it's looking like about 400 horse.
That's not too shabby. I know you don't want to run a boosted engine lean. What are you doing for fuel?
I was talking to a guy named Rusty Barris on the National Lightning Owners Club forum, and he was talking about these Gen 1 trucks having dual fuel tanks, and each tank has its own pump, so you can electronically wire them together and almost double your fuel flow. But since we're using BBK headers and throttle body anyways, they sent along an inline pump that should take care of us.
Cool. Well, you know I like a turbo engine. You got to give me the keys once in a while.
Swap keys.
All right.
Hey, if you've got an 07 or 08 JK, check out these new grill inserts from Quadratech. Now, these are made of metal, not plastic, so they offer a good degree of protection. You can get them stainless like this or a black powder coat finish, so they look good too. Now, if you've got an older TJ, don't worry, they're available for your Jeep as well. You can get your hands on one for a little less than $300, only from Quadratech.
Now, it's hard to walk into our shop, or any other shop for that matter, and not find cans of WD-40 everywhere. But we're constantly losing the little red straw. Well, that won't ever happen again, thanks to WD-40's Smart Straw can. It has a permanently attached straw that sprays a traditional stream just like you're used to. But when you flip the straw down, you get the regular spray. The best thing is, you'll never lose the straw again. Now, if this isn't enough for you, WD-40 also has their new Big Blast can that can cover large areas and do it rather quickly. WD-40's Big Blast and Smart Straw cans can be found just about anywhere you buy your auto parts. Thanks for watching Trucks. See you guys next week.
Up next, our Suzuki Samurai is going to be powered by French fry grease. Here's Xtreme 4x4.
Does every fill-up empty your wallet? Today in Xtreme 4x4 episode, our federal government would rather you not see. Ian and Jesse build a green Samurai that runs on fuel Uncle Sam can't tax. It's a non-polluting, money-saving alternative to gas and diesel. Right now on Xtreme 4x4.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Xtreme 4x4. As you can see, our project Suzuki Samurai is back in the shop to get finished up and head out on the trail. What once used to be a cute little four-wheel drive commuter is now a hardcore trail truck just begging for its time out on the trail.
Now, it all started when we removed the stock Suzuki axles and replaced them with 2 Toyota units that we got from a junkyard. Now, we hung those on a custom double triangulated 4-link, both front and rear, and suspended them with QA1 coil springs and Edelbrock Extreme Travel shocks.
Plus a new set of 6.5-to-1 gears in the transfer case, a brand new set of welded-on bead locks made our wheels look pretty insane, and finally 35-inch tall pit bull tires, which were unfortunately rubbing on the frame when we tested the flex on our suspension. So to solve this, we're going to be using some wheel spacers from Spider Tracks. A wheel spacer does exactly what its name implies. It spaces the wheel further away from the original mounting flange. The Spider Track spacers are vehicle specific, and our 1.5-inch thick units are 6061 T6 aluminum with anodizing for corrosion resistance.
Now, although we left the internals of our Toyota axles completely stock, we knew that a high steer kit was going to be money well spent. Now, our complete kit comes from Sky's Off-Road Manufacturing, and for just under $500, we get everything we need, including a good used IFS steering box. Now, not only will the high steer kit relocate our steering arm up out of harm's way, the aftermarket pieces are a lot stronger than the stock Toyota stuff. The kit includes new billet high steer arms, upgraded tie rod and drag link with beefy FJ80 ends and new jam nuts. Since our steering box is obviously not going onto a Toyota frame, we'll have to build a custom mount onto the Samurai. Now this IFS box is a power steering box, which will help us turning the tires. But to make it even easier, we're going to go ahead and drill and tap this box to divert the power steering fluid out of the steering gear down into hydraulic ram that will mount on the axle itself that will help push and pull the tie rod and make steering even easier.
I have a question for
Yes,
you.
Jesse.
Do you know why they spell T-O-Y-O-D-A as Toyota instead of T-O-Y-T-A?
I don't know.
Do you know?
If you do, go ahead and send us an email and we'll send you an official Xtreme 4x4 coffee mug. It'll even be used.
And autographed.
It's recyclable. With the box off the truck, it can be completely disassembled to a bare housing. Then 2 holes need to be drilled and tapped. Top hole goes into the existing fluid passageway. The second hole goes through the D on the Toyota stamp on the side of the gear. Tap the holes using an 8-inch NPT thread tap. Then with the box and the parts cleaner, we'll give it a good scrubbing. Then we can completely reassemble the gearbox. If this is something you have never done before, grab a service manual from your local parts store and follow the instructions step by step. Now all that's left to do is measure the length or stroke of the hydraulic cylinder we need for the ram assist. And we do that by turning the wheels all the way to the right and then again all the way to the left, measuring the distance that the tie rod travels. In our case, it's going to be about 6 inches long.
Now, to say that the original seats in the Suzuki had seen better days is a complete understatement. And typically when you see these trucks, they're hauling their entire families through the trails. So we definitely needed more than just 2 seats. Now in the front, we're going to be using PRP suspension seats with adjustable headrests. And in the rear, we're going to be using what they call a preteen seat. It's made for kids under 13 years of age and is basically a smaller scaled down version of the full-size seat. Now we could have found used seats at a wrecking yard or even used low-cost plastic buckets. But since we save money on almost every portion of this build, let's splurge a little bit. These seats are not only way more comfortable, but much safer than junkyard finds. Money well spent.
Now we could have spent a little bit more money and upgraded our Suzuki 4-cylinder, but instead, we've got another plan. Now there's nothing really wrong with this little 4-cylinder that came out of our Suzuki, but the engine that we're going to replace it with is going to have a lot more power.
And it will be environmentally friendly.
Yes, like Al Gore, or Greenpeace, or a whale.
A whale is environmentally friendly?
Yeah, they're always important.
Later on, the secret behind our eco-friendly 4x4, plus a trail test that proves our Sammy kicks gas. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4. With the gas engine out of the Suzuki Samurai, we're about to perform one of the coolest engine swaps ever to this VW turbo diesel. It's out of a '99 Jetta we picked up for $1,000. Anybody that knows these motors know they can typically run 400,000 miles without an overhaul. And with just under 60,000 miles on ours, we think we got a steal of a deal. And by putting diesel in our Sammy, we're not only going to get the fuel injection that works great off-road, but we're going to get more power and awesome low-end torque, all without any spark plugs.
Now, a diesel engine and a gasoline engine are very similar. They're both internal combustion engines that burn a fuel to create power by forcing the piston down inside the cylinder. But how that fuel is ignited is the difference. A gasoline engine uses a spark plug to ignite the compressed air and fuel mixture, and that's what causes the piston to move. Now, the diesel engine obviously works different. When the air is compressed, there's no fuel in it, and they actually fire the injector only into that compressed air mixture, and that is what ignites the fuel. The fuel is ignited by the compression of that air, heat as well as the pressure. Now, the benefit to a diesel engine is basically its compression ratio. A high-performance gasoline engine may have a 12-to-1 compression ratio. A diesel engine will have 14-to-1 up to 25-to-1. That allows more oxygen to interact with the fuel because it's basically crammed closer together. This makes it more efficient. More efficient means we get more power, more torque, and less emissions because more of the fuel is being burned and not sent out the tailpipe.
Swapping a diesel engine into a Suzuki Samurai is not a new idea, and the guys from Rocky Road Outfitters have made a complete swap kit just for this application. It includes everything you need to replace the gas engine with a Jetta diesel. Everything from your transmission adapter plate, to your motor mounts, to your wiring harness, and even your exhaust header. It starts with changing over the water temperature and oil pressure sensors from the Samurai engine to the VW. This is so our stock dash still functions. Then the motor mounts can be bolted to the engine. We'll keep the old alternator and bolt it to the diesel with the supplied mounts. The adapter plate is then bolted to the back of the engine and the new flywheel reinstalled on the crank. The transmission bell housing bolt holes need to be enlarged, according to the instructions. Then the engine can be installed into the truck. Now we just got to hook up the lines for our diesel fuel to run into the 3-gallon cell that we got from Summit. It's so small we can fit it right under the hood.
Now I know what you guys are thinking, 3 gallons, that's not a lot of fuel even for an engine that gets almost 45 miles to the gallon. But in a minute we're going to be slipping in an auxiliary fuel cell in the back of this truck that'll turn this Suzuki into a vegetarian.
I like vegetables.
Welcome back to Xtreme 4x4 and our little green Suzuki Samurai buildup. And by green, I'm referring to more than just the color of the paint on that truck. Now let's face it, the environment is a huge issue to a lot of people nowadays. And that little trail truck is about as environmentally friendly as an off-road vehicle can get. The truck itself is reused from a wore-out old commuter vehicle. The wheels and the axles are recycled out of a Toyota that we pulled from a junkyard. And thanks to this kit that we got from Musclecar, this vehicle is soon going to be running on an alternative fuel source.
A diesel engine is often referred to as an oil burner, and that's because diesel fuel is just that, oil, not gas. The increased compression ratio allows almost any oil product to burn in the combustion chamber once the engine has reached operating temperatures, and that includes vegetable oil. Thank you.
Now, Musclecar makes a veggie conversion kit for almost any diesel vehicle out there, and ours is a complete kit for a 1999 VW Jetta, which is the same car that our donor motor came out of. Now, it's a pretty simple system when you think about how it works. It's basically a dual fuel with 2 separate tanks. There's solenoids mounted up underneath the hood. One will be switched on to deliver diesel fuel up to the back of the injection pump, and the other one is switched on to deliver vegetable oil up to the back of the injection pump when the diesel is turned off. Now the key here, as Jesse said, is keeping that fuel at engine operating temperature, and Musclecar does that in a pretty ingenious way. It starts with a heating element that's down inside the vegetable oil tank. Now this accepts engine coolant from the motor, and the fuel is picked up really close to it so it stays nice and warm. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, once that fuel comes out of this tank, it's probably going to begin to cool down. But when you install the system, the fuel line is actually inserted inside of a heater hose, and that way it will stay at the right temperature all the way up until it gets underneath the hood. Under the hood, it'll obviously need to be filtered, so they have a filter that's wrapped with a coil that is also heated by the engine, and then it's off into the injection pump once it goes through the solenoid. Now, our kit, we opted for the control module from Musclecar. Now, the nice thing about this is it can operate in a couple of different modes. It can have a manual mode where you actually have to physically select either diesel or vegetable oil, or an automatic mode. Now, the automatic mode will not only measure the engine coolant temperature, but it'll also measure the temperature of the vegetable oil itself. When this reaches the optimum temperature for it to be burned inside the motor, it'll automatically switch from diesel over to the vegetable oil, making this kit almost brain dead to operate. Now, one thing you do have to remember when you're installing a vegetable oil conversion is you don't want to shut the diesel engine off while it's still running on the veggie. If you do that, it can actually gel inside the lines as well as inside the injection pump. Now, the nice thing about the Musclecar kit is if you turn the key off while you're still running on vegetable oil, the solenoids as well as the computer will automatically flush the system and get rid of all that vegetable oil so it won't gel inside the lines and the truck will still start. Now, because of that gelling and the fact that this is a trail truck, we're going to go ahead and use some of this Gold Eagle diesel power anti-gel and fuel treatment in both the veggie tank as well as the diesel tank. This will keep the fuel from becoming gelled when it gets cooler, and that way every time we jump in our Samurai, it'll start right up.
The installation will start under the hood, where we'll mount the veggie filter and the solenoids. Heater hoses are hooked up to both the engine and the tank, one with the fuel line fed through it. Then the Musclecar control module is mounted in the cab, and the digital display is mounted within the reach of the driver. Now, since this project is obviously not a Jetta, Musclecar made us a custom fuel cell specifically for this application. Now, you guys are probably wondering, where do you get this oil that you guys are talking about? Because it's not like you can just pull up to the gas station and get vegetable oil directly from the pump. But what you can do is go to one of your local restaurants that has fried food, and they'll probably give it to you. And I bet if you're nice enough, they might actually pay you to take it away. We're back on Xtreme, and our '87 Suzuki Samurai has undergone a huge transformation from a worn-out daily commuter
into a hardcore trail truck with all the typical goodies.
Toyota junkyard axles,
long travel suspension,
hydraulic assist,
4-link front and rear,
suspension seats,
full exo cage.
But most importantly, we gave it an oil change.
Goodbye fossil fuel.
Hello vegetable oil. Yep, the green Samurai makes a huge statement as it crawls through the woods.
It's our first hybrid, so to speak, thanks to a used 1.6-liter turbo diesel from a VW Jetta, combined with a Musclecar waste vegetable oil conversion.
Fuel you can cook with.
Our Zook rolls on fuel that costs nothing.
Well, almost. Ours is a 2-tank system that starts on diesel fuel, and as the engine gets to operating temperature, the veggie oil is heated to a lower viscosity. Hit the veggie button on the Musclecar computer and off you go.
This thing works awesome. With diesel at over 3 1/4 a gallon, the immediate impact is on your wallet, with long-term effects at the tailpipe.
50% reduction in carbon dioxide emissions,
26% less carbon monoxide,
nearly 0 nitrous oxide emissions,
and 50% less sulfur dioxide, the stuff that causes smog and acid rain.
So we can give back a little to the environment while saving some cash.
Now, what about performance? The flex and ride of the Zook is awesome. Thanks to the QA1 coil springs and the inertia active valving system in the Edelbrock shocks. The trail gear, 6.5-to-1 gear set in the transfer case, helps this truck truly crawl. And the low-end torque put out by our diesel gives this Samurai some serious low-end grunt.
The 101-inch wheelbase means we can get it in and out of some pretty tight spots.
XO cage, that's why it's there.
And the compact size and weight means... I'll just hang out here.
Flip it over.
We can get it out of a jam with a little help from our friends.
1, 2, 3.
So our green Samurai answers a couple of inconvenient truths about four-wheeling. Number 1, you don't need deep pockets to build a capable trail truck. Ours, lock, stock, and barrel, came in at just over $6 grand.
2, you can tread lightly, not only by using recycled parts, but with a veggie oil conversion that produces very little emissions.
And with fuel that costs $0 per gallon, all we can say is,
I love this truck, man.
Grease is the word.
Well, a big thanks to Rick Cogdill for letting us tease Dana with his gorgeous 71 Cuda. Now, Dana, are you going to be checking on the progress of your ride as we go?
I'll come every weekend if you want me to.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm in.
This is going to be one amazing project.
I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much.
So are we, of course. We'll see you guys next weekend. Now, Dana, you going to teach me a move or two?
I'll teach you a move. This is a rear naked choke. Bend down a little bit. All right, when you feel this, tap, okay?
We've got another show.
She held it there. They're tough.